Woo! I am hyped up. I'm hyped up because we have the ultimate hype woman, Erin Gallagher, on. Erin, welcome.
Allison, I too am hyped up. I feel it, girl. Hype is a lot of fun when you lean fully into it and you recognize that it is a verb. It requires action, and it can really fuel you in a lot of ways. So I'm so honored and thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here. In October, is it October 14th? Is that the release date?
That's the date.
October 14th, your first book, Hype Women, comes out. But where I really want to start is your promo on this is Mean Girls Are Fucked.
They are. Turns out.
Tell me more.
Yeah. Turns out on that date, they're fucked. Yeah. It's so funny because the reaction to that promo there's been a bit of a line in the sand, right? Like my publishing team and my agent, they're like, we love this, yes. And my mother is like, can you maybe make a few visuals without that? Once people, and women specifically, have their hands on this book and they are able to experience the lessons that I have learned the hard way through my extrication from the craw of Mean Girls, they will be able to spot them more easily in their own life and to break free from them as well. And so that's the reason that I sort of use that language. It was to say, I am not here to hype all women, first of all. And I'm also not here to teach mean girls how to be kinder. I'm here to help women identify the mean girls in their life and to break free from them.
Wow. So I'm wondering why Mean Girls? Like, what is your experience, you being in the craw of it? What did that look like for you?
It looked very different over the course of my life. I think we all have probably similar experiences of mean girls on playgrounds in elementary school, the teasing and the taunting and the making fun of, whether it's the outfit that you were wearing or what your hair looked like, or you were someone who hadn't started shaving your legs yet. Like these were sort of the things, the ways that you were made to feel less beautiful, safe, smart, and strong in your own body. And a lot of that language did not come from them. It came from conversations they were hearing of their own mothers who were talking
Totally.
shit about their friends or even young girls in front of them. And so, it starts there. It starts there. And yet what you see, unfortunately, is a lot of those mean girls, they began to increase their power and their influence in their spheres of friends and sports teams, and then jobs out in the real world and all of these sorts of things, and communities that they're creating and in coalitions. And so it continues to grow. And that fear of not being included in that person's orbit is what allows their behavior to continue. And so it's when you finally decide it's worth less to me to be a part of that than it is to like myself, you start to pull back, and you can immediately, as you make that decision, take your power back. It's not an overnight process. It took me a long time to do it. I worked for women that were like this, that saw me as a threat, saw me as competition, that felt that it was necessary to make me feel less than in order to prove their value and worth. And so that continued, and it happened in circles of friends as well of mine. And I hit 40 a few years ago, and I just had this phrase that kept coming to me, Allison, that I could not shake. And it was, I will no longer abandon myself in service to others. Because this has been torch that guided me out of the darkness.
Wow.
I will no longer abandon myself in service to others. I had spent the majority of my life personally and professionally, chills, right? Personally and professionally, equating all of my value and my worth to my service. And I noticed that in so many of those instances, that service, whatever that duty was that I was doing, that job, that behavior, it required that I became smaller. I became less than. I became a shell of myself. And when I hit 40, I said, "To what end, Erin, are you going to keep doing this?" And so I began the process of really breaking free from people, places, and programming that had been holding me back. And mean girls that grew up to be women, right? They were a huge part of that infrastructure that had kept me sort of locked inside of a cage that I didn't realize I had the keys to unlock.
I can't help but think about where this is the most obvious, right? Like there are a lot of insidious ways that mean girls kind of creep up at, and also we are the mean girls. And the way I see this, I remember I generally don't look at people's comments, but I'm like so interested in the culture and pop culture and the zeitgeist. And
Yeah.
so sometimes I'll look at a famous person's um post, and you'll see just utter destruction, especially if it's a female,
Oh, yeah.
from other females. And of course, those other females have private accounts, like no followers, no profile picture, or they'll have something of like God first, love always,
And you're
something.
like, this is a really interesting way for that to show up.
Yeah, it's so hateful, and it makes me feel like, why do we hate ourselves so much? And I think I don't think people walk around going, I hate myself, but it shows up. And
Exactly.
one of the things that I heard you say in another podcast, and I don't know if I may misquote it, but I was like, that you can't stop loathing and lusting over other women's bodies until you love your own body.
Girl, that's straight from the book. Yes, that is exactly what I said,
Damn.
right? Women cannot stop lusting after and loathing other women's bodies and lives until you start loving your own. Because until you do that, everything will be a comparative exercise. Every time something shows up for her that is good, whether it's in her marriage, in her child rearing, in her career, in her hobbies, in an outfit that she's wearing or a way that she's styling her hair, until you are good with what you've got going on, that will feel like a competition to you. And therefore, if you don't feel like you're winning in your mind, the negative thoughts start to take over. And this is the systemic conditioning that is inside of us. So you just said, like, yeah, there is a mean girl inside of all of us. There is a mean girl inside of me. It is not our fault. It's our conditioning. We have been taught our
Mm.
entire lives that women are competition, that they are threats, that a light on her casts a shadow on you. Allison has a podcast. If I want a podcast, or I want a podcast that is as good as Allison's, my first thoughts might be, is Allison even that good? Is her
Yeah, we've
podcast that
all
good?
done that.
Why
We
is she
all
getting
do that.
right? And where it's stemming from, in truth, that I don't think we talk about enough, where it's stemming from is desire. Like, it usually means it's something you want. And so if we started to look at that as the underlying feeling of some of these moments of jealousy, right? Jealousy is like when you want something someone else has. Envy
Mm.
is much worse. Envy is when you don't want them to have what they have. When we are in the beginning phases of those feelings, if we looked underneath those layers, more often than not, it's because it's something that we want to. And so if we could go and tend to that, and actually heal that part of ourselves that we feel has a core wound or is missing, we take the pressure off of how we feel about another woman, and we start to show up as the woman inside of ourselves.
Yeah, I think the challenge is that it is so ingrained and knitted into the way, like, even this morning, I was on social media and I see somebody that I actually really like. And, she was talking about money and energy and whatever. And I'm like, fuck her. And I just closed it down. And of
Right?
course, I'm not going to comment about it, but it was something where it was something of, whatever, like she didn't deserve that, right? But at the same time, I always know that when I'm in a place of jealousy or judgment, it is time to close down social media, that I need to plug in to myself, that I know that's not who I am to my core, but
Yes.
how it is being experienced. And so I do want to understand,
Mm.
tell me about good girl conditioning. I know we all know what that is, but I'd love to hear it from you.
Yeah, I wanna talk about that. I wanna just say one quick thing about what you just said, which happens to all of us. The way to start to rewire your brain, when you have when you have come out of that instant emotional reaction, which comes up for us for varying reasons, you can go back to that same post and that same person, and by hyping her, you will actually start to rewire your brain, and you will
Mm,
start to chip away at the conditioning. Because in that moment, how you felt was not based on necessarily what she was even doing, it was based on a lot of other
totally.
mitigating factors. But when you go back, when you are in a better place and you say, "This is amazing. I'm so proud of you." You share it, you hype it, the endorphins that you get as a result, which is the opposite experience you were having with that cortisol pumping through your veins, will start to decondition you.
Mm.
I encourage you to do that. This is how I am navigating my own journey of getting through those feelings that come up every day. The good girl conditioning that's in all of us says, "You are here to do what you're told. You are here to serve. You have a job to do. Don't talk back. Don't ask hard questions. Don't don't make things difficult." And so I like to equate sort of my experience, especially in my career in corporate America, is that I was that good girl crawling caterpillar for 15 years,
What do you
right?
mean a crawling caterpillar? What does that mean?
So think about metamorphosis and this notion that we are all going to go through multiple transformations over the course of our lives because of age, because of life stages, because of choices that we've made, because of our own sort of self-awareness and healing and growth. And so when I visualize kind of my journey, I was that good girl. I was a crawling caterpillar that couldn't move quickly, couldn't really step out of line, and just went along at an incremental pace, taking what I got and doing what I was told. When I turned 40, I had a full break, open, breakdown, breakthrough, all of it, right? Where I went into a cocoon and said, none of this is working, but I have no idea what to do. I
Mm,
just know that this is not working anymore, and
yeah.
I don't even know who I am in my body. At that point, I had 2 young kids, and I was just looking around at the world going, "Is this all there is?" These are the things that I wanted 15 years ago, but now that I have them, I don't know that I want them. And so I went into a cocoon and truly dissolved into goo, and that is what happens to a caterpillar. It dissolves into a completely different matter, and then it reemerges as a butterfly. It breaks out of this cocoon that it created for itself, where it dissolved into nothing, and it flies the fuck out of there. So you think about that crawling caterpillar and that butterfly, and you see them in the same frame, and you're going, how the hell were these the same entity? One of them has a very different life. And so the good girl conditioning is I am going to just do what I'm told. And I am not going to be disruptive, and I'm not going to cause any problems like that. We're taught that if you ask hard
Mm,
questions and if you say you want to do something differently, that that's being problematic. Men are called innovative when they do it, but
sure.
women are called problematic. And so I realized I'm definitely this good girl, but I am following rules in a game that's rigged against me. So I am never going to win if I keep playing this way. And so I decided I'm out.
I think there's something to be said about growing up in the 90s, like people that are over 40, and there was a lot of conflicting messages, especially when, you look at our humor in the movies like Happy Gilmore, and, all of these Adam Sandler movies, and things for you to have like the goofy kind of befuddling guy, and there'd always be like a two-dimensional blonde, pretty woman, thin, white, always, that was literally there to be pleasing. not any personality, very two-dimensional kind of thing, and that was it. Reflected in my own life, my mother was a stay-at-home mom of 6 kids, and she told me and my sisters, "Allison, never rely on a man to make money. Always make your own," because she did not make those choices, and when my parents divorced when I was a teenager, um, she lived the rest of her life with poor, chronic
Mhm,
illness,
mhm.
and she ballooned. She got very, 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 very overweight and really struggled with depression. And I looked at that and I'm like, I am never, ever going to let that happen to me. And it became so conditioned to me that I don't want a man to leave me. And by the way, I'm a teenager. I
Mm.
want to be so attractive that a man wouldn't want to leave me. And it was there was so much conditioning in that. So much was cultural, right? Like the you can do anything but be skinny and cook and clean and whatever. You can get those board seats, but not being a bitch, you know, you've got to kind of do it in the patriarchal sense, right? Be pleasing to men. Don't piss off anybody. And I feel like my entire life was kind of built on how can I construct the perfect woman? I'm moldable, I'm bold and I'm, smart and I'm just gonna outsmart everybody. And I think that's when things get crashing down when you're trying to play in this very patriarchal system and you realize this doesn't feel good and it starts to really impact who you are as well.
Yeah.
And now this is an episode where I'm interviewing myself.
No, it's not. No, it's not. What you are calling out is what happens when the patriarchy, that system is embedded in the infrastructure of the family system, which so many of us grew up with. We grew up with a family system that operated this way. Now, my parents got divorced when I was in second grade. And so I was raised by just my mom. So I didn't, it's like I had different challenges of what it meant. I learned you don't need a man at all. Like
Mm,
that I grew up to be so independent to never count on a man that it has actually been difficult for me to be a good partner in my marriage. I mean,
mm.
my husband and I are celebrating our 11th wedding anniversary
Congrats.
2 weeks. Thank you. And it's been a journey where I have expected, like at any point, this whole thing could just go up in flames. So you might as well just do it all yourself anyway. Like not counting on
Oof.
not counting on him has been detrimental to our marriage because it didn't allow him to be a partner to me and then not a partner to me in the raising of our children when I continue to want to own the power of how things were done. And so my mom and I had this like real breakthrough a few years ago where I said to her, "You had it hard because you were the only one. It was you. You had to make every single decision and you didn't have anyone there to help you." And I was like, "I have it hard because I have someone here and I have to compromise and I have to depend on him and I have to allow him to do things his way, which are not always my way." And so I was like, they're different challenges, but again, it's like we're teaching ourselves how to do these things that we were never shown and finding some equilibrium where we are calibrating in this like I'm independent, but I also enjoy having a partner that I can count on. That's, I think, another challenge. That's one that I've had to really face.
Yeah, and I think in both cases, it is that don't rely on a man. Don't rely on a man, figure it out yourself.
Yeah,
I'm so
but
yeah.
yes, but Allison, the problem though is that when we do that, we completely alienate them. And the good ones are not part of the evolution. So we have to figure out how to how to partner better.
I think the partnership has everything to do with the changing landscape of gender what gender's roles are.
Mm.
in a partnership. It's a really interesting time. I don't know if you're familiar with the study that recently came out called The Lost Boys, that,
Mm.
there's been a rise of ambitious women, women that go to school, they can earn the money, they are far more educated, they are self-sufficient, and they're doing the work on themselves, they're going to therapy. Whereas men who have been taught to be the providers are like, what about me? They're undereducated now, where women are have tipped the scales, where women are predominant in these college institutions, and they're struggling in dating, they're struggling in romantic relationships, men are, and women too, and it requires both. This is not a
Yeah.
man hating conversation, and by any means. I think part of it is like the evolution of what partnership and connection look like
Yeah.
now. And, and I want to hear about what happened on January 11th,
Mm.
2023 for you, because this story is insane.
It's insane. It's insane. If I had a TED Talk that talked about this, it would be called Intuition Over Everything.
Ooh, what a
That's
great title.
what I've come to realize. Yeah, I was meeting one of my friends for dinner, and I was a little bit early, so I'm scrolling through my phone and I see this image of Jamie Lee Curtis sitting next to Michelle Yeoh, and Jamie is like screaming with her arms outstretched, and Michelle is has her head in her hands, and if you have no context, you're not quite sure what's happening in this photo. You think Jamie's celebrating something that she won, maybe? What we come to find out is that it's Michelle. Michelle was nominated for the first time in her 40-plus year career as a working actress, and she won. She won Best Actor for her role, her starring role in Everything Everywhere All at Once at the Golden Globes. And Jamie was celebrating Michelle's win as if it were her own.
Yes, I remember that.
And I saw this and I thought to myself, God, we don't see this very often. We definitely don't see it enough, but we don't see this very often. A woman celebrating another woman's success so unabashedly. And it just immediately brought forth to me this idea like, God, so many of us are really sick of this infighting. We're really sick of hating other women. And so I just started to write a post. I started punching it out in my phone. I was like, ladies, this is your vibe for 2023. Unabashed hype women. We are going to decondition from what we've been taught, that women are a competition, they are threats. We are going to unlearn this. It's a trap meant to keep us keeping each other down. I was like, we're going to do the opposite. And I was like, find your Jamie. be a Jamie to someone else. This is what we need more of. And I posted it and I closed my phone and I went to dinner and I didn't think anything of it. And I wake up the next morning and I find out that Jamie Lee Curtis's friend saw my LinkedIn post and sent it to her. And then she posted it to her then 5.6 million followers on Instagram. Now Jamie has closer to 6.3 million. And she said, a friend sent this to me. It really touched me. This describes so much of who I am. I'm so proud of and excited for Michelle. She deserves this. And so that's what she did. And so then we start DMing each other and she's like, thank you for this. How can I support you? And I'm like, oh my God, Jamie Lee fucking Curtis. Right. And then she's like, here's my cell phone. So we start texting. And over these next few days, as this momentum is starting to build, these conversations are starting to happen in more places. I'm getting messages from people saying, kids I went to like elementary school with, and I'm a military kid. I moved every 2 to 4 years my whole life. So these are people that I haven't talked to in like 25, 30 years. They're like, my mom chat group sent your post to me, right? Like another person's like, I was on a Zoom and this came up in the conversation. This is showing up in some Facebook group. And so I thought to myself, okay, there's something happening here. This is a cultural zeitgeist where we have tapped into something that is very real. And then 15 global publications posted about this and wrote about it. And as a person who has spent 20 years in public relations, when you don't pitch a story and it gets picked up everywhere, something powerful is going on.
Yeah.
Right. So I ran with it. I turned it into hypewomen.com, really continuing to fan the flame of this movement and to encourage women to hype each other. the same conversation we just had, Allison. When you're having that moment, do this instead. Tell me what it feels like. Is it working? Is it helping? Those sorts of things. I turned it into a podcast, which now has, 23 episodes. And now it's become a book. And so it was a moment that we turned into a movement. And a year after that post was written, Jamie Lee Curtis was on her book tour for her 13th children's book. And she was on the Today Show, and she was on the Kelly Clarkson Show, and she was on The View. And every single one of them brought up my post and said, "Tell us about this. What is happening here?" And Jamie talked about me, and she talked about the Hype Women movement. She said my name in rooms where I am not. This is the type of human that she is. It's the understanding that so many women have now, that we have the ability to transfer capital to one another, our human, social, financial, and political capital, make deposits, make withdrawals. This is a new ecosystem that we are building that is separate from the patriarchal one that, by the way, is not really wanting us to play, right? We
Mm-mm.
know there's less than 10%
Less
of
and
women
less.
running Fortune 500 companies, right? Less than 2.3% VC funding. We're getting paid less. Like, that is not working. So we need to be doing things in a different, innovative way. And this is just a good example of that. Jamie sharing her political and social capital with me as I continued to grow and evolve this, amplified it and took it to new levels more quickly than I could have done it alone, ever.
100%. But I wanna stick on something that you didn't mention, but I know has happened for you that is all you. And that when you and Jamie Lee started connecting, she asked, "How can I help you?" And you invented some shit out of your ass.
Yeah, you're
And
right. You're
I'm
right.
here for
No,
this. I
no,
think
yeah.
we need I think when there is a gift horse, there we want to, like, blow it up, and I think that part is really important.
So in our first like Instagram DM conversation, before we even moved it over to texting, Jamie said, I'm here. I'm in. How can I help? And I said, I want you to come to one of my fairway dinners and I want you to be on my podcast. And Allison, I did not have a podcast, right? Nothing existed. And what have I done since then? What have I done since that moment on January 12th, where Jamie said that to me and made those asks? I created an event that was going to be much easier for her to participate in as a Oscar-winning actress who's incredibly busy. She's an activist. She is constantly pouring into others. So I made sure that this was as easy and as doable as possible with understanding that she might not be able to come. And when I would spend 100 days working on Kamala Harris's campaign, and I was hosting Hype Women for Harris events. I hosted one at one of her best friend's restaurants in LA, Dear Jane's, and we had a brunch there because Jamie prefers to do things in the morning and midday. She's not really an evening girl. She wants to be home,
Amen.
right? And so I made sure that I met her where she was to create the greatest possibility that we could be in person. And she came. She came to that event. And so, 2.5 years after that first post, Jamie and I were together in person, and it was magical. There's nothing like being together with someone that you admire and that you have built something powerful with. And then, yes, I created a podcast, right?
I
I
think
haven't
that
had too
part
many
is so
podcasts.
insane to me that you didn't have it, but you thought quickly on your feet, and I love that you knew that this was a lightning in the bottle moment, that you were like, "How do I blow this up?" What I
Yes.
think is interesting, Erin, and I'd be curious about your take on this. Back in, like, 2016,
Mm,
2015, you could post something and it go viral and you could make a business out of it. That
mm,
is no longer the case,
mhm,
generally speaking, but people are looking for
mm,
that thing to go viral that all of a sudden their life will unfold for
mm,
them. I'm
mm.
curious about what you see in the trends of being somebody that, obviously through your own heart and the intuition over everything. But a lot of people are also chasing the virality kind
Yeah.
of piece of this, but maybe not. A lot of times the viral thing is like something really dumb. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, for sure,
unboxing
for sure.
video.
Right? Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Sometimes it's like, wow, this thing that everyone's talking about, I have no heart for, but I feel the need to be involved so that I can be a part of the conversation. That is a choice that some people make. And it's a choice that I've made in the past. Absolutely. I think where I am now, where this moment came from, this was something that I had been building for a long time.
Yeah,
I had been doing this work and laying the groundwork, planting the seeds in field after field after field after field, and it's why the moment when the moment met itself, and I
yeah,
made the choice to write that post, and Jamie made the choice to post it because any one of those things doesn't happen, and this whole story looks very different.
totally.
I see the picture of her, and I keep scrolling, and I never write it, none of this ever happens, right? She gets the post that I wrote, and she says, "That's nice," and she doesn't post it. None of this ever happens. So, the universe if you believe the universe is conspiring in your favor,
I do.
then you do what your intuition is telling you what to do, and then you know that a lot of it is out of your control, and it will go where it may. And so, I think for me, like, this was possible because I had been building this. I had my own business, Ella, that was focused on women and accelerating women into positions of power to influence and bringing us together to put more money in each other's pockets and to transfer our human, social, financial, and political capital. I've been doing these things, and so the tweak of this name and branding was a, like, slight adjustment versus if all of a sudden I decided, "You know what? I'm gonna make, monster trucks." That's
Yeah.
my thing. Like, that's like a left turn, don't know where that comes from, it's much harder to do. So, for something to, like, hit, it requires a cultural zeitgeist. It requires that you are saying something at a moment where it matters, and that other people feel and see the authenticity of it.
You know, when you're thinking about authenticity, you had said something in another interview that kind of stood out to me, and it was about telling the truth on LinkedIn.
Mm,
And the reason why that specifically stood out to me, my background is in corporate sales. So, for 23 years, I worked for DocuSign, Salesforce,
mm,
ADP, and I've had my podcast while I was working in corporate. But because I had clients and an employer, there was only so much you can say of the truth, and not that I was going to be on there blasting, I'm not the person that is denigrating
mhm,
other people, you know what I mean? But because we are in such a divisive time, as I have left corporate America. And, like there has been such a long deconditioning where
mm.
I'm constantly going through the lens of what are people going to think? What are they're going to judge? People that maybe didn't vote the way I voted
Yeah.
are going to know, and then they're not going to want to do business with me. And
Mm,
it's so much bullshit
mm.
that we have to go through to not tell the truth. And you had talked about your employer thought that you on LinkedIn was more of like, you being vulnerable was the liability
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
thought.
Yes, absolutely. I was seen as an extension of the brand, and anything that could potentially be misconstrued by any of our clients in whatever capacity or way they see the world should not be said. That's a surefire recipe to say a whole hell lot of nothing. And so I was never going to do well inside of a system like that. It's why I left corporate America. But even when I started my first company with two other women, we took a lot of that baggage with us. And that same message came at me, even in a time when I was a founding partner and a owner of my own company. I was told your vulnerability publicly is a liability. I had to just come to a place where I said, for how long am I going to let other people tell me that my experience didn't happen, and to tell me that my intuition is wrong, and to tell me that that's not what they meant? This is the death by a thousand cuts that women experience over the course of their
Mhm.
lives, where we are constantly told that our experience didn't happen. We're questioned, and our interpretation of something was wrong. Well, when you do that enough times, you fully stop trusting yourself because you're told over and over again that you're wrong.
Wow.
You fully stop trusting yourself. And so the past 3 years has been about me learning to trust my intuition again. It has been about me not needing external forces to tell me that the experience that I just had was real. It has been about me not needing external validation to make statements and speak truth to power out in the world. Girl, it has been messy. It has been a absolute shit show. People have been pissed. People still are pissed. But I came to a point where that was worth less to me than liking myself. And I had done so many things that made me not like myself in order to be liked by other people. And
Wow.
I hit a point where that was no longer going to be the way I lived.
So when you think about Hype Women, your book, tell me about it's part memoir,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But not
Yeah.
all memoir.
I did not expect it to be that way, but that is how it came out.
I
Yeah,
think
it's part memoir, part sort of playbook, part historical nonfiction. It's all kinds of things. It's the way that I write when I write in short form, but I was given the latitude to go deeper. So anything that I think is resonant with a person has a combination of 3 things. It's culturally relevant, it has a inherent truth, and it has your personal point of view. Those are the 3 things that are necessary in order for it to have impact. And so I ended up kind of taking the reader through the journey of what it's like to be inside of my brain, where I am constantly quantum leaping between decades of my life, where I am flashing back to something and I'm right there because something in this moment is triggering it or reminding me of it. Or I am pushed forward to a time that hasn't yet come that I'm anxious about, that I'm trying to think around corners and prepare for. And then honestly, the hardest part of my journey, which has been to be in this moment, to be here, to
why
be
is it so hard now?
it's not it's not hard now to do it. It has been the hardest thing to get to this point, which is where I can be present. Being present has never been a part of my DNA because anxiety rules has ruled my life for a long time. And so I spend a significant amount of my time revisiting things that have already happened and rethinking them and thinking about how I would have done them differently. And then I also spend a significant amount of time worrying about things that haven't happened. And so it has been a very long journey to get to a point where I am now, Allison, where I can be present and I can say, right now I'm here with Allison. This is where I'm meant to be. I can't be anywhere else. I can't be on my phone, sending an email like when you're talking and I'm not really listening to you. I can't be worrying about where, like my kid who's at a pool with a friend right now. Like, I'm here. This is where I need to be. And that requires incredible intention and also a belief that you are worthy of your own time.
Hmm. Girl,
Mm.
I think the question that I've heard you ask a lot, and I think is like the foundation of the book, is does this work for me anymore?
Yes.
And asking these questions. And as it relates to Hype Women, I'm curious around how you square with this guide to healing yourself as it relates to supporting others and the community that perhaps you have yet to build or yet to be part of, that when you rewire your brain in a certain way, what does that look like for you?
The main mechanism necessary in order to participate in any of those things is to release control. And
Mm.
that has been,
Sorry, control freaks, myself included.
I mean, it's been a rude awakening, right? Have
It's
control
rude.
has kept me safe. Control has kept me alive. Having control over everything, or so I thought, got me to where I am and it has gotten me everything that I have. That's the narrative that I have
Yeah.
told myself about control,
It feels betrayal that you have so much, yet it doesn't feel like it's enough.
because it's never going to be, because the whole thing's a farce. We don't have control over almost anything. We think we do. The only thing we can control is the actions that we take or don't take, the way that we perceive or don't perceive something, right? Our thoughts and our actions are the only thing that we have control over. How everyone in the world interacts or doesn't, responds to, triggers, that is all on them. And no amount of preparedness and strategizing can change every single move of another person. And so it is a thankless, never ending job. What I finally realized was while I thought control was protecting me, it was actually keeping me from a lot of good. It was acting as a
Mm.
block from all of these good things that were trying to come to me that I had my hands gripping tightly around. When I started to release that and to actually be in a place where I could receive, okay, that's a totally different vibe. Receiving is vulnerable. It is,
Yeah,
because if you're
you're right.
tight, you're controlled, and you know everything that's going to happen at every given moment. Receiving is not on the docket, but receiving is what you are also owed in this lifetime, especially when you've put good karma out into the world. And so I have had to really start to define my relationship with control and to recognize how much of it I need to let go of.
I think it always comes back to the most simple things, doesn't it? Like, get good sleep, eat right, be present, be still, release control, and
Right.
then receive. It's so simple, yet everything that we've been taught is complete opposite of the hustle culture of hold on, control. I think it is such an unlearning that we're
Mm.
doing, and that I'm so grateful to you, Erin, for standing up so boldly and writing this amazing book, and I can't wait to get it in the hands of people that are listening now and to shout out about it and to hype it up, because I think you're right, and the more we talk about it,
Mm.
the easier it is, right? To just remind these little invitations. How can people buy the book? How can people find you, Erin?
You can pre-order through October 13th, anywhere that you prefer to buy your books. And on hypewomen.com, I have links to, 8 or 9 of those retailers, but really anywhere that you buy books, you can do it now. And you can follow along with my journey of this newfound experience of launching a book into the world, on Instagram. I'm a little bit on LinkedIn, but I've really left it as my primary content publishing platform. I'm over on Substack now, but those are the places you can find me.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Erin, and, I'm gonna hype you up.
Thank you, Allison. I
Watch
appreciate.
out, mean girls, you're fucked.
You're fucked. You fucked, girls.